What is up, guys? Toss a coin here, and today I will be telling you why you should be using Valheim's most underrated weapon, the spear. But before we get started on these reasons, if you liked the video, please comment, like, and subscribe. My self-confidence is based upon the attention I get from strangers on the internet. And with that, let's get right to it. Reason one, and most important in my opinion, is that the spear is just way more inventory efficient. The spear will only take up one spot compared to the bow taking up a spot, and then the different arrows you might carry could take up a slot as well. This means bare minimum, you are giving up 2 slots to use your bow. And more than likely, if you're like me, you carry 2 different types of arrows, usually one for trash mobs and then a nicer arrow for tougher mobs, which means you're taking up 3 slots to use your bow. This makes the spear far more slot efficient, which becomes really important as you advance in the game and more items start competing for your inventory slots, such as potions, tools, crafting mats, and different foods. This is actually the primary reason that even made me consider switching to the spear in the first place. Reason number 2 is the cost to craft. In the fine wood bow, I wouldn't consider any of the bows cheap to craft. Usually the recipes demand a large amount of your resources that could actually go towards better armor, a better primary weapon, or progressing your game. A great example would be in the early game. The tanning rack and crude bow both need leather scraps. The crude bow needs 8 leather scraps to be exact. A flint spear will only require 2 leather scrap to get going, and now you have a weapon you can throw and fight with. Acquiring more leather scraps will suddenly be easier with this spear. Also, don't get me started on the fact that the crude bow is really just a waste of resources due to how inaccurate it is. I can hear the angry comments as I speak, but Toss, everyone knows to just build the fine wood bow and skip the crude bow. You're right, but please refer to reason number 1 why I'm not going to do that. Early game is all about cramming every last piece of loot into your inventory, like the good little loot goblin you are. The more space, the better. Reason number 3 is the DPS. You can still initiate fights from stealth and get the sneak attack bonus just as you would with the bow. On top of that, depending on the enemies, you usually can stagger enemies with each spear throw. You literally are walking around with an instant stagger button, which you do extra damage to staggered enemies. Learn how to parry, or heck, even just be able to dodge, and the spear easily outdamages the bow in most scenarios. The only exception would be starting every combat scenario from a mile away, and even this advantage can melt away quickly depending on what you are engaging. Reason number 4 is the cheese strats. The swamp is considered a pretty tough biome, mainly because it initially forces you to learn to use potions and to maintain a rested buff. The enemies also hit pretty hard in this biome. So what if we just stand just out of range and hit the enemy with the spear throw? This doesn't quite work with other melee weapons aside from the sledgehammers, and the bow has the downsides of using ammo and doing less damage for the same strategy. This was legit my main strategy for clearing the dungeons in Mistlands, just due to the sheer number of enemies in those dungeons. Reason number 5. But what about the mountains, Toss? The drakes are way easier to kill with a bow. I'ma be real with you. This is the only biome I think the bow is worth considering. You can totally handle the drakes with a spear, but you have to be some kind of insane spear nerd to limit yourself to just a spear for this biome. All it takes is one bad throw and good luck finding your spear at the bottom of the mountain. However, this is the only biome that I think the bow is a clear choice over the spear. Back to reason number 5, the Mistlands. Just like how the mountains are way easier with the bow, the Mistlands are way easier with the spear. The mist takes away the one redeeming factor of the bow, and that is the range. However, this biome literally allows the spear to sing. You can cheese the dungeons at the entrance. Y'alls are literally defenseless as you launch your murder toothpick at their soft underbellies, and landing a max damage attack after a parry on a secret soldier might be the easiest to do with the spear out of all of the melee weapons in the game. Reason number 6. This one kind of goes back to cost, but due to how cheap it is to craft a spear, it is the quickest way to get a power upgrade when entering a new biome. This makes exploring new biomes easier, and the upgrade costs are just as cheap. You can max upgrade a Fang Spear for less silver than it would cost to craft a level 1 Draugr's Fang. Reason number 7 is the playstyle. With a bow, you are normally limited to just sneak attacks or kiting the enemy. The spear can sneak attack, kite, or just scrap like any other melee weapon, making the versatility of this weapon unparalleled. The enemy hits too hard to engage in melee with, just pelt it with spear throws. Have multiple weaker enemies, just stagger, parry, attack, whatever you like. Reason number 8 is the fact that you don't need to constantly craft arrows. The arrows are both a pro and con for the bow. They can bring some elemental damage to the table, but they still don't outperform the spear in raw DPS scenarios. They do bring some utilities such as frost arrow slowing, but we all know that death is the best CC. On a serious note, I just got tired of constantly crafting arrows. I prefer to just spam repair at the crafting bench and be on my way. All of these benefits are contained in just one inventory slot. The biggest weakness of the spear currently has to be its basic attack, which is a downward stab. I personally like the attack because it's very spammy and gets high DPS, but it can make attack enemies at certain heights difficult. Luckily, we have a combat update on the way that is supposed to fix attacking enemies on varying elevations and surfaces. So all I have left to say is if you got to the end of the video, this is your sign to finally do a playthrough with the spear. You won't be disappointed. It is easily the most underrated weapon in Valheim. If you are still listening and you liked at least one thing in this video, comment spear down below to let me know I got something right. I look forward to what you guys have to say in the comments, and as always guys, see you next time.